Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the final day of the Mill Valley Film Festival. As you know, or you may not know, the State of the Industry panels have been a staple with us year after year because things change, they stay the same, and they change every year. And we have a fantastic panel. The moderator is going to be Ron Yerxa, and Ron is a veteran producer, have you read, but I just want to reiterate that it's rare to find a producer who works in the Hollywood system and also works in the independent area and attends many of our meetings, and he and his partner Albert Brooks are involved in the Film Festival Alliance. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wasn't he a partner before that? Yeah, when you were doing comedy on the road?
Albert Brooks?
Yeah.
I like his comedy. Albert Berger.
Okay, Albert Berger, of course, his partner, participate in many areas, adding to the independent film community. I just want to say something in general. I'm not going to be participating in the panel, but what I've learned just from observing filmmakers is you can make any film you want, but you got to make it at the right budget. So if you want to do like Paul, NOSEEUM 2 on the sex lives of NOSEEUMS, you spend $12.50. Yeah. If you want to do, instead of Cold Mountain, Lukewarm Mountain, maybe you don't want to have the same budget. So we have a panel of experts, and it's my pleasure to turn it over to Ron Yerxa.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you know where you're going to be sitting? Okay, this is like introducing the basketball team. So in the seat number 4, Raven Carter. And then I guess we could have in seat number 2, Lilian T. What? Mehrel. It's easy, but the spelling throws me off. Lilian T. Mehrel. Okay, we have a last-minute addition in Julie Benello. Yep. Chicken in. Yeah, that's fine. Rose Guo is here, and we have a seat for Paul Cohen. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming. It's great to be in Mill Valley. I've been here for 3 days with my wife. It's been great seeing films and hanging out and spending some time with Rose and having a complimentary dinner last night. And doing other excellent screenings and events. Spike Lee last night, and Rose Byrne with her film If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. That was an excellent reception and time with her. So this panel can go in a lot of different directions, and we don't know which one it's going to go, but we'll see. The industry, it's just hard to make one statement about the state of the industry. It's not like, oh, it's good or it's terrible, although both things are kind of true. It depends, what part of the elephant you're looking at. We're probably going to try to be upbeat. I know our filmmakers are very upbeat, and I'm going to try not to bring it all down. Just as a couple introductory remarks, I guess, it's been a major revolution, as I'm sure you all know, in the last few years in filmmaking because of not only COVID, of course, but the rise of streamers and sort of the victory of streamers over theatrical distribution. So it's harder than ever for the kind of producers we are, my partner and I, to find a home for independent films. In fact, in a way, streamers have become sort of a life raft But the problem there, of course, is everything is coalesced and become tighter and more difficult, and the streamers no longer throw the kind of money on interesting art films and taking chances that they used to, because they have a very clear idea, most of them, of what works for their subscribers, what holds subscribers, and they're pretty upfront about it, that some of the kinds of films we do, character-oriented films, stories that aren't thrillers or mysteries, they do very few of those. They really match the kind of films they buy and produce with their study and perception of their subscribers. So that's just a little bit to say the traditional way of making an independent film, the way Albert and I have done it with several films, is you somehow, even Little Miss Sunshine was done this way. You have financing coming from outside a studio system or a traditional production company, and you make the film, and you're very hopeful that when you take it to a film festival, mainly the festival where you took films was Sundance, and if you were lucky, and we've had it go both ways, there's multiple offers and people are up all night, or sometimes they all seem to agree that that's not a film for them. But even that first step of getting the film made is so much more difficult now, because financiers don't really want to take that risk, because so few films are bought at festivals, and there's not a lot of safety net of taking it to a streamer or any other secondary audience. Some films just are made, shown at festivals, and there's no place for them. They might eventually end up on a Tubi or wherever they can. And then there's a few success stories, is the I guess bright side, but it's just a much tighter, more difficult situation. So we still go ahead. We just finished a film that we executive produced, which will be tough on a jazz pianist, and we made it in Ireland, and it's a dark film. So we'll have to see. We haven't taken it to anywhere yet. Maybe Sundance. So that's where Albert and I are. We've done, I guess, 25 films or so. And every day there's the one thing I might mention of just being a producer is the biggest change for us in the producer's life is it used to be that producers looked at each other kind of like their competitor, like it's a zero-sum game, and there's no need socializing or hanging out or sharing information. That's just the way it was. For some reason, now that it really is more of a zero-sum game, producers have a lot of solidarity. There's these groups which we're part of, Producers United, that share all kinds of information. There's so much helpful information in Dear Producer, which is a website that's tremendously helpful. Film Independent. It's just now there's dinners, there's socializing, there's camaraderie. You'd think it is the greatest time as far as feeling a community among producers. So that's an upside, and I guess that's my theme, is even though almost everything is more difficult, there are some cracks in the wall that you can get through or, somewhat compensate for the fact that it's a very difficult time, not only in America, but in the independent film world, for sure. So we have basically very positive, upbeat filmmakers on this panel. I guess I introduced you just quickly. I guess I can start out with a question. Raven had a film that a lot of us saw last night, NOSEEUMS, which looked beautiful. She can explain how it was produced when Paul was part of that at Florida State University. And then Lilia had a very impressive film that had a great way of being made, kind of thanks to a special award at a film festival. And Julie, since you're a new addition, you get to explain how happy you are. And Rose is newly appointed as head of, what is it, technically the California Film Institute, or our artistic director. I've known Rose for like 40 years. We often end up at the same film festivals. And Paul, I think we've known for 60 or 70 years. And he's had such an interesting career being a distributor and having different companies. And obviously is still crucial to certainly Raven's film and others through his work at Florida State University. So I guess we could start out by saying, and we can start, I guess, with Raven. You know, what really, since it's your first film, what's really good and hopeful, and what's the challenge you see for your film?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Raven Carter. I'm from Texas. I'm from a small town called Bastrop, so that's the Austin area, and so I live there and reside there. But I had the privilege and honor of going to Florida State University Film School. It's a 2-year MFA program. I did my undergrad in Austin at an HBCU. Any HBCU people in the whoop whoop? Yeah, HBCUs. And yeah, transitioned to Florida State after about 2 years. The dean, Reb Braddock, and Paul kind of came to our class and was like, hey, we want to start this program where we make a feature film, and one of you guys gets to direct it. It will be completely student-led and all those things. So, of course. So we pitched against, like, our cohort, basically. And we won the pitch for NOSEEUMS, originally titled Biting Midges. Hendrik is one of the co-writers. He's out there. Put your hand up. Yeah. So yeah, him, myself, Jason, one of the writers, and a producer named Lisette. We were all in the film program. We got to pitch it. We won the pitch, and we went into like this 8-week period where we had to write the script, find the actors, find the locations, which is very uncommon. And now everyone else gets, more time. We were the guinea pigs, so we had to just scramble up all the resources that we had. But yeah, we made a strong film, and we didn't let the time constraints take away from that. I think something that I'm hearing, at least, like, okay, the topic is state of the industry, and something that I hear is like everyone's had this like very unique path, and I'm sure you guys hear that a lot on panels. So it's hard to say like, this is the way or that is the way. Like, I did not think that I would go to film school and then get to make a feature film straight out of that. Like, that was not... I was studying exercise science. I wanted to be a physical therapist. And then 2 years later, I'm directing my first feature at 24 years old. So that was really... It was just awesome. And I love what the film school is doing. I didn't know the film school, like, controversy until I was like in film school, I guess. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. But I will say that Florida State is the type of school where you go to learn how to do everything from gripping to electric to ADing to PAing. Like, you don't just go and get to, direct and write and be the leader of a project and, puff up your ego. One day, like literally one day you're directing, and the next day you might be the best electric on someone else's set. And then the next day you might be, the second AD, and you're trying to get everyone snacks. And the next day you're pushing the dolly. So it's very humbling, and it helped me in my process a lot. But yeah, that's a little bit about my story as far as like NOSEEUMS goes. And we had our screening last night at 9 p.m. And so kind of like during Spike, while Spike was doing his thing, and I was like, what are the chances? Spike's in the next room? Like, what an honor. And I got to meet him, and then we did our Q&A, and that went awesome. And the audience here was, it was just a great experience. Like, the jokes landed, people were laughing, and that made me really happy. So, yeah. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Paul, and I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, it's great. And you bring up an interesting subject. Yeah, it's a great story, and the film will really look great. Maybe we'll touch on it about the film school controversy later, but certainly it's a, Florida State and other places where you actually make films.
Yes.
Is so much more attractive than film schools where a lot of it's theoretical and you're really not fully making a film yourself. Anyhow, I guess next, Lily, you want to tell your story?
Sure. So I have a indie film fairy tale. Last year I won $1 million to make my feature film. I also had to pitch. It was the Tribeca AT&T Untold Stories Award, the biggest film production prize in the world. No big deal. And yeah, they picked 5 finalists. We sent in our feature scripts, our previous short films, and the 5 finalists we pitched live at the Tribeca Festival in front of an audience of hundreds of people and a panel of celebrity judges, Cynthia Erivo, David Diggs, looking at me, and they filmed it like it was Top Chef or something. You can watch it online, but first watch my film. And then, I pitched. We went to have lunch while the judges deliberated. 1 hour later, I won $1 million. Thank you. I made the film in under a year to submit to the Tribeca Festival because they had the first look to premiere it. And we did get selected in competition. I premiered at the Tribeca Festival this June. And the pitch was a little teaser of what I love to do with that audience. What I got to do and what I love to do is take audiences for a ride, a roller coaster ride of laughter and feelings. And getting to experience, yesterday I had my first Mill Valley screening, getting to sit in the room and feel the energy and feel the waves as hundreds of people, at the premiere and laugh together, then get emotional together, and you feel this collective human experience. That's also partly what my film is about, the waves of life, the light and dark, and the shared human experience, the inside joke of being human. And to share that with audiences means so much to me. And it every single time, it lights a fire under me to do more.
Lily, I think I said this to you because I'd seen Lilia's film, which is really compelling and has so many thematic ideas in it, really, on a link. And I thought, well, I've seen the film. I'm not sure, I'm going to go yesterday. And this is, of course, a very vibrant, robust discussion of the benefits of seeing films with an audience. But it's almost like seeing a different film. There are so many nuances and moments of humor. And I thought, wow, how did I miss that on a link? It was really a great experience. Okay. Julie, go ahead.
I'll introduce myself. Julie Parker Benello, wearing 2 hats here today. And first of all, just congrats to both of you, awesome filmmakers. So the first is as a producer on a short doc that's here at the festival called Big Rock Burning with my director over there, David Goldblum, first-time director. And we have one more screening tonight, 8:15. We're paired with the Steve Shapiro doc. And it's a short documentary about the Palisades fire and the Big Rock community. And David and his partner Andrea lost their home there. And then he went into film days after the fire. So it's really a call to action and a call to witness for the community. So I'm wearing that hat, but my main hat is I started a nonprofit 20 years ago called Chicken and Egg Films with 2 other amazing women filmmakers and producers. And we saw a need to support women documentary filmmakers. There was not enough funding in the community. And so we started Chicken and Egg. The 3 of us got together, banded together, and to give grants to women documentary filmmakers. So 20 years on, we give about $2 million a year to women and gender expansive documentary filmmakers. And we have grants that go from development. We've gotten Netflix to support those grants, so that's good. Development grants all the way through to production and post-production. And, I think that the nonprofit community, Mark asked me to join the panel because that is a way to help support the community. And the Mind the Gap here at Mill Valley has just done such an incredible job focusing on women filmmakers. And so I think that the nonprofit community can also play a role in getting some of these films made, creating community for filmmakers, and I'm incredibly proud of that contribution to the community, to the documentary community. So I think I'll stop there, but thank you for having me.
No, I first thought you were on the panel and then you weren't, because I've been aware of Chicken and Egg and people who've worked on it and been very happily supported by Chicken and Egg. So that's great. Rose, you want to give your overview on what's possible?
Where do I start? Can you hear me now? Yep. Well, I've been in the industry for a long time, and I actually started in production, and I've produced a few films before I went into festivals, and then I took a break from festivals and became a consultant to the distributors for maybe the last 7 years. So I've had this 360-degree view of the industry, and I know that for the last few years, especially post-COVID, the conversation has been the crisis in the film industry and the crisis in production in California and the crisis in for particularly indie filmmakers. I think that's what we're discussing more than studio films. I would say that the industry obviously is in a transformative period. I'd rather avoid saying it's shrinking or expanding. What is happening is different areas are shrinking and different areas are expanding. Today, can you hear me? Today, I don't know what Joel can tell me, but I don't know what the submission numbers are here. But when I started, the number of features a programmer had to see was several hundred. Today at Sundance, there are 4,000 feature submissions, which means the industry, in fact, is expanding in the area of making movies. There is more access for filmmakers. It is cheaper to make films. When I started in the industry, you had to get someone who knew how to handle film, get someone who knew how to handle a very expensive camera. You had to get an editor who had a editing system that handled the film, a processing. And now, a few years ago, I worked with a woman who shot a film on an iPhone and an iPad, and she's not unique. Many filmmakers have done that. So the access to actually making a story has never been as democratic, as accessible to everybody. The flip side of that, however, is that there's been a contraction because there's been a consolidation of the distribution and theatrical side. So we have lost, I can't remember the number, but we've lost theaters. We were losing them even before COVID. COVID obviously accelerated that. There's been a consolidation in terms of of studios, of course. And then the studio system has gone into IP, more into producing IP films. And there's been a middle ground of films that studios used to make, dramas, small comedies, etc., that they really do not make as much as they did now, And so it's kind of a flip side. One side's expanded while the other side's contracted. And what it means is the pipeline for films that have gotten made has narrowed to the point where it's very difficult for a film to come out into the marketplace. And I think that's the main problem, because if the marketplace is not able to take on as many films as being made, then people are not having filmmakers, producers. It's not a sustainable career. So you take somebody like, well, besides Ron, but Ted Hope, who's made 80 films or something like that, who has talked extensively about the inability to make a living making films. So while you can make a film, it's how do these filmmakers and producers continue to make films and not just make one-off films.
Yeah.
bigger conversation.
Yeah, no, that's a crucial one. It's so much easier to make a film and so much harder to get it purchased or distributed, and that's where there's like a massive amount of Zoom meetings and it's the hot topic. But Rose, what you're saying is like if 2,000 people submit to Sundance, is that what you're saying?
4,000
Oh,
features.
4,000. That means there's 3,800 or 3,900 people very disappointed, and it's a scramble to find other places to place that film. So that's the problem. I mean, you laid it out. It's just it's great that you can make a film. It's very hard to get that film seen, and that's why there's so much energy put towards independent. Rose mentioned Ted Hope. He has a Substack, and if any of you read it, boy, we're having intermittent voice.
We'll just start shouting.
Yeah. Anyhow, if you read it, he's a great source of information, but sometimes it's 62 reasons why to keep making independent films, and then the next Substack is 47 reasons why you shouldn't make a film. So it's tough. Yeah. It would have been, I don't know, would have been much nicer if the streamers were still buying independent films. That would have been a nice release, but that's pretty much not happening right now.
They're buying films. They're just not necessarily maybe buying domestic films. Because
oh yeah,
the other thing is that there's been a decentralization. Hollywood used to be Hollywood and then New York for independent film. But what I've seen more recently is there's been a migration and film has become much more globalized. You see the emergence of Korea, which is now has a major output of television and films. LATAM is another region that you see a larger uptick of films that are getting out into the world. There's financing elsewhere in the world. There's very robust tax incentives that are creating pockets of opportunity, but they're just not here. So
yeah,
the streamers
absolutely.
are buying.
I thought we're probably better off just focusing on here since we're here. But Paul, take it away.
I'm Paul. I'm here because I love this festival primarily, but also here to support Raven Carter's film NOSEEUMS, which I served proudly as the executive producer as a member of the faculty of Florida State University's College of Motion Picture Arts Torchlight Studio, for which I'm the director. I'll go back a little bit, and in 1978, I began distributing films. I knew nothing about how to do it, but I had nothing to lose. So I took what little money I had, I invested in a movie. I managed to be clever about how to get it out, and it worked, and that began my career. And I had to learn every step. I had to learn how to get a movie in a movie theater. I thought movie theaters just take movies, and pretty naive, and I still am pretty naive. But the point of that is I began distributing when the only outlet for the movies was movie theaters, and that's been the dramatic change over time. I think it's always been difficult to be in the entertainment business, particularly in the motion picture business. It's always been a struggle. There has always been conflicts and always been issues. When VHS came up, it was going to be the end of movie theaters and the end of making movies, and it became the best thing that ever happened. We had influx of capital. We were able to produce more movies. And so over the course of the years, I began releasing the Luchino Visconti movie, and I ended, after 38 years, releasing a Jean-Luc Godard movie, À l'Origine de l'Amour, and a movie Mick Jagger produced, Enigma, with Kate Winslet, a big independent picture. And I did that to retire and change my life as a Manhattan urban city dweller, to have a ranch where my wife saves as many Mustangs as we can afford, in just outside of Tallahassee, where I'm a member of the faculty. gratefully, because I had no idea what I was doing with these horses. And and as a result of that, over the last 10 years, we developed a program that's incredibly interesting, and I hope it serves a model for many other institutions, in that we provide the financing, 100% financing for our students who are about to graduate, who compete for one slot of a feature film, and once they are selected, stay on for a third year, so that we can use the facilities at the university to post-produce the picture. We have ARRI cameras. We have huge post-production facilities. We're a highly rated research institution, and so that carries down to the film school. We have to have the best quality equipment every year to graduate our students into a contemporary world. And so with that, we felt that our students were going out. Many of them had a great deal of talent. They took a long time to get to the first picture, and we would help them along and create this program called Torchlight Studios. And fortunately, the first film that turned out was in the hands of Raven Carter. It was not by an error. We thought she was the jockey to bet on, and she was. My role at the university film program is that of a more financial business end, what is little taught in the industry, and that's really what I've been doing for well over 40 years, is raising money and selling movies. So with that, I can announce that we have had an international distributor representing NOSEEUMS, an Australian outfit called HONEYJOON, with whom I had known for many years, so I bring experience to the university. And I can announce, but not the name, because I'm on a non-disclosure until they do a press release, but we have secured U.S. theatrical distribution for the film. So that's a big deal, and it's a great horse to get out of the gate. And with that, the idea is we're supporting the voice of independent cinema. We're supporting the challenges that are ahead for our students. And we're doing it actively, and we're doing it in a way that we're their wingmen. You never graduate us. You graduate the university, but we're always there for you. In the commercial world, I also continue to produce. I've moved in much more into the documentary space, because being up in Tallahassee and a professor, it's difficult to travel, and documentarians have a remarkable way of being sufficient, taking care of themselves. They need a little bit of money, they need a little bit of direction and support, and they run with the film. So I'm currently working on a series of Kiss the Ground, Common Ground, and soon to be released Groundswell, directed by a team of Josh and Rebecca Tikel. You may know Josh. And we're about to enter into an opportunity that will take us even further. So all of that being said, I do believe this is one of the best times ever for a young filmmaker to enter into the filmmaking business, the filmmaking profession. The difficulty is understanding how to raise the financing that you need to make the movie, not the financing you want or the financing that'll get it done, but the financing you really need. And also how sophisticated you are, knowing who the buyers are, and being able to communicate with them on a continuum of basis, so that when you are ready to have a film go out into the marketplace, and the marketplace is a business. There's the aesthetic, and there's the creative, artistic part of filmmaking, and then there's the gritty, hard, difficult part of money. And money drives the wheel, and it also leads to the opportunity for filmmakers to go on and make other films. And with that, I think that there's also more opportunity. Yes, theaters have consolidated and shrunk after COVID. They just couldn't sustain that. We just, as the Torchlight Studios, we just purchased the Regal. Regal's a theater chain throughout the South. We just purchased the Tallahassee Regal Theater, so we can also play the movies our filmmakers make, which is a huge movie, and proud to say I'm also the director of the Cinematheque, and I hope to keep the vision of filmmakers and the history of film alive as it quickly dissipates. Indiana Jones is not one of the first early movies. There are plenty of movies that occurred before, but the idea is to have this understanding and this education of really the full spectrum of what it is to be a filmmaker. If that's not accessible, and certainly you do not need to go to film school to be a wonderful filmmaker, clearly. I did not go. I barely went to school. I don't remember if I went to school. But I do remember who I worked with in the films that I was involved with. And those films all had the same uphill difficulty, but in different ways. Everything's changing, and today it's changing very rapidly, which is a big difference. But you need to weather that and be aware of it and be involved in it and embrace it. This is the life of a creative. If you want to make movies, it's part of it. And I think that the one aspect that's different is, even though it's super difficult to get a distribution company to support you and support you in the way that you'd like to be on the big screen, to have the waterfall, I call it the waterfall of income from the theater to the DVD, well, there's still Blu-ray, DVD, and to streaming and educational, etc. So all of that income is not necessarily available. You may end up not getting a distributor, but what is available today that wasn't available 20 years ago is to be able to self-distribute, which I'm not recommending, but it does exist. You can go to YouTube, you can go to other platforms and put your film there so you get known, so that in the past you were unknown. If your film did not get distribution, you had to start over. Today you can get an audience, and many of my students now that I'm there 20 years, are hitting success and developing brand names and going to Tribeca year after year with an audience that follows them because they're very astute at social media. So there are other. What I'm saying is that's not the answer, but it's one of the answers, and that's there's always a solution. There's always a donut around the hole.
View, I guess, of the whole landscape. It is a different world, though. I mean, this is a very optimistic panel. I'm almost becoming optimistic myself. But you know, one of the joys for a lot of people, like, you know, it's really true of the two filmmakers that were at the festival. Seeing a film with an audience is really a peak experience, and it's in our life peak experience too. I mean, there's nothing better than people really enjoying with your film, and also, you know, there's a dynamic when an audience is there. Some films that I've seen in a full theater and been wild about how great they were. When you see them later elsewhere, you wonder what you were thinking. A big part of your enthusiasm was the audience and the synergy you get from them. And so I guess I'm leading to the idea that, well, there's a lot of effort out there in how do we revive the theatrical experience. It's a funky mic. But anyhow, maybe some people have some thoughts, because I'm not really exaggerating that there's a couple Zooms a week of people getting together talking about reviving the theatrical experience, and that it has to be revived. And, you know, part of that is, you know, that the mass theatrical experience might well be gone. It's just, you know, history moves on and changes. And, you know, everything about our life is different. So some of that discussion is ahistorical. It's kind of ignoring everything that's changed technically in home entertainment, and that a lot of people got used to watching films at home. And the other part of it, though, is an attempt to be constructive of making the theatrical trip to the theater something more joyous and robust and fun and communal than it is for most places. And that's why at a film festival or at some of the Cinematheques, you feel like it's just a really exuberant experience. And so everything from having coffee and cookies after every screening in a theater where people can walk outside and talk and what you thought about the film, or ways to spread word of mouth, whether it's letterbox or having group field trips to theaters where people feel like very good about the group experience, which is a thing my partner is heading up, like field trip to movies, where 10 or 20 people decide to go to the same movie at the same place at the same time. So there's a lot of creative efforts for that. I'm a big one for having the theater put out effort to introduce a film every screening, and then have something, whether it's just oatmeal cookies and water, but something where you don't just go and walk to your car, because it's such a difference. I was just walking around the Century City Mall and the AMC. It's so alienating that it's like it gives you the chills. You're going to see a movie, you don't talk to anybody, you don't see anybody. The seats are almost like isolation chambers. So the Cinematheques and the archival houses, and certainly film festivals, are the example of the joy of seeing a film collectively. But that's what we're facing. So if anyone want to talk on that issue, the
Sure.
theatrical viewing experience.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we were talking about it yesterday, about one of the things we love about seeing movies is talking about them after, and having it be a shared experience that maybe people are craving, especially after early COVID when we were so distanced. And it made me think also about just kind of questions about how to make something more of an event, more of a shared experience. And when you just talked about Letterboxd, I was thinking Letterboxd has kind of become the virtual conversation after. Like right now, people will watch my film, thankfully at a film festival in a theater, and then go write on Letterboxd and be in conversation with each other. Like someone will, quote a line, and then 20 people will heart it, and that's their version of what people are craving to talk to each other about it. And I'm not just saying this because my film HONEYJOON is playing right after this panel, and you should all go see it in the theater. But also because I think, why do we want to see movies at all? We were talking yesterday also about how it's a way to release. Through the movie, we can have catharsis, we can laugh, we can cry, we can feel something in our bodies, and we can go through a human experience, in ourselves and together. And it makes us feel seen in our human experience. Yeah.
I think one of the issues that we're facing when you talk about theatrical is that, as we all know in festivals and people who run theaters, is that the audience tends to be older, and that we're not seeing younger audiences in the theater. And when we talk about Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're not seeing less. I would say they're media omnivores. They are seeing more, and they're seeing more everywhere and all the time. They're just not necessarily going to the theaters the way we once did. Their acculturation is not, hey, it's Saturday, let's go get together and go to the theater. I have a 24-year-old, and he grew up in festivals, and he's seen everything. And sadly, he rarely goes to the theaters. We're always sending him suggestions, and when he does see something, he sees it, heaven forbid, on his phone and his laptop computer. And so the question is, I guess, how do we view these access points that this new generation and this new audience because it is accessing, and how do we lead them back to the theaters? And I think that's where the conversation needs to be, because they are seeing things, they're still interested in stories, they're still watching narratives. There's an explosion of a new industry that's been percolating for the last few years. Does anybody know about micro dramas or short dramas? They were almost nothing. Verticals. They arrived onto the scene a few years ago. They're percolating. They come from China. That's where it's exploded. They are now a $7 billion industry. And people like Chris McGurk, who used to be a studio head and ran a theater chain, is now one of the principals leading he's got four partners who are in this space. There's tons of money and attention going into this space, and there's twofold reasons. A lot of filmmakers who come out of film school who can't get a job are being snatched up in this new industry, and so they're becoming filmmakers. You know, they're able to direct and write and shoot something in 2 weeks, edit it, and have it out within 30 days. And so I think I find this space really interesting because it reminds me of Roger Corman. It's like the dramas are not particularly, they're formulaic, nice way of putting it, but it's still R&D to me. It's still interesting that filmmakers who come out of top tier film schools, who really don't have the financing or haven't been lucky enough to win an award or get a grant, or filmmakers who make films for $20,000, $30,000, $100,000 on their phones, and they need to make a living. They're going into this field, and I
Rose,
think
wouldn't you say that that's as vibrant and good as it is? That's another thing that's taking away from the theatrical viewing experience.
Well, I would say, how do we connect these audiences? Is there a way to take these viewers and these stories and lead them back into the theatrical experience? I worked in China for 3 years, and what was really interesting is when I first went to China, there was no theatrical, and all the movies were pirated on the sidewalk. But shockingly, you'd see Kiarostami, and you'd see Bergman films, you'd see all these art house films. I don't know if this is true, but I heard a story that some big mogul sent his kid over to school in the U.S. I don't know if I'm promoting an urban legend, but supposedly one of his degrees, he studied film as like a minor. And when he went back, he was given a piece of the family business. He wanted to get into this area of movie distribution in China, but since he had a film degree, he's flooded it with all these art house filmmakers from all over the world. I don't know if that's true, but the point is, when I first got there, there was a huge DVD market. That's how the entire population saw foreign films. When theaters opened up and some of these places played these films that were not new films, there would be this huge lineup of audiences, and I thought it was fascinating that they'd seen these films on DVDs, but then they wanted to go into the theater to see them on a big screen, to see what they, and it made me wonder, I'm not suggesting this, but it made me wonder whether there's a pathway, even if somebody comes into it in a different form, to lead them back. I'm not saying there is, I'm just asking a question. And I think we have to think about it. We have to think about it in radical ways, because the industry is changing in radical ways. And sometimes the old way that historically has worked, that we keep trying to do, we might have to rethink those processes.
No, I think it's a very powerful statement you're making about where we are right now. And I think my students are representative of that, because they do see these verticals and they know films that I've never heard of, and they have big stars in them. They have, they had Bruce Willis. They have all kinds of really major names, and these direct to streaming films that have this tremendous audience below the surface. Those students do, though, go back to the movie theater now. They do go and see the big screen experience, and I think that's what it is. I think part of it is to have a bit of showmanship and have the theater experience as something that's bigger than life. The way it was made to be, the way the students learn to make movies is bigger than life, with great sound and a beautiful, beautiful look to them. That's very different than watching a film on an iPhone. Although I don't know how. I mean, if I was a perceptual psychologist, as I was many, many years ago, that's what I would study. What are they seeing on a small screen? Are they watching Pirates of the Caribbean Duel on an iPhone and love it? Or do they love it more on the big screen? It's a perceptual concept. Are working differently, I think, but it needs to be explored. So, for me, the clickety-clack and the flutter of a 35 millimeter print on a projection in a theater is my remembrance of cinema. When we do panels or anytime when I think of cinema, that's what I think of. And I think the film festivals, particularly film festivals that are super well curated, like Mill Valley, where you're seeing the films that we saw at Cannes, we saw at the biggest festivals that Mark has, gone to, seen, and acquired for this festival, is really a remarkable way to have an opportunity to see films on a big screen, to re-enjoy them, to remember why you, as children, went to see movies and that experience. And I think that's not going to go away. It's just right now it's not prolific. It's not working the way it should. And part of the new technologies is not going to go away either. And I think there has to be a method, maybe showing them these certain movies and teasers on iPhones is a good way to open them in movie theaters. The reverse of everything we ever thought. Don't do that. It'll kill the film. Well, maybe it'll attract us. So I don't have that answer to offer, but I am exploring that, because there is no question that the audience, particularly for young people, has diminished. And that's not new news. The fact that they're coming back, and it's a balance between how does this theater survive if they're not there? Why would they put an independent picture? Why would they put NOSEEUMS in if people are seeing it in other ways? I don't have that answer, but that's what I'm watching is to see if they can sustain the slowdown of audiences rushing to their theater long enough to continue to play a film, or they'll just stop playing it, and many have. And we've lost lots of theaters during COVID. They could not bounce back, and now more because the population is just not coming to those movies. And they want to sell popcorn, and they need an audience.
Well, my answer to that is it has to be an event. It has to feel like an event. You can't just be in the strip mall as one of 12 films, but people feel like, and that's why where I see the most promising young people going to films, I'm sure it's probably at the Rafael too, but in like Santa Monica, there's a theater, the Arrow, that's part of the Cinematheque. They sell out films that are classics. Even I went to a Minor Godard film, it sold out. And there are a lot of people are young, they're aware of that. But I think some of it is, I felt that way going, that I'm going to see some of my friends there. There's going to be somebody afterwards talking about it, and it's going to be more than just come, sit down, watch, and go home. I'm going to have something to talk about, later with friends and experience something. And there is really a bright spot, because I thought, how are people coming out and filling theaters and for a silent French film 50 years ago, they sold out Bellatar films for 4 nights. I mean, it's like, wow, how did word get out that people will come and see this film? It's because it's a special event. It's like partly like a festival, or like the Pacific Film Archive used to be. It's just, and that has to spread, because it's so different than going into an AMC and just, getting to choose, whatever it is, 87 flavors of Coke. Yeah, I think there really is a fork in the road of big distributors, big exhibitors are saying we're going to make it more of a kind of full digital Disneyland experience, as opposed to an intimate experience of feeling a community of film lovers.
Can I add something? I was, as you're talking, I like what Rose was saying earlier about it's not sustainable. And I feel like for a lot of my friends, like I'm thinking like you know, young filmmakers and things like that, what if it doesn't change? Right. So I teach second graders. They're on their devices all the time. When I'm having like issues with, you know, their behavior in class, their parents go straight to screen time. So that's like the new punishment. And I love going to theaters, but I don't see a whole lot of my second graders wanting to go to theaters. So I'm thinking like internally for the filmmakers, can you guys like raise your hand who is into making films, or if you consider yourself a filmmaker or actor? Yeah, like for the psyche, I've been thinking a lot more about what that does to us as filmmakers with this lack of visibility. I think it's normal and natural to want to be visible to your audience, but what if you don't get it? And I think that now we're forced to question, what are our motives behind making this at all? Like, what's the point? Why write it? Why keep going to the coffee shop to write the thing if it's not gonna, I don't even know if I'm gonna get to make it. I don't know if it's gonna go to the marketplace. So now I think we're having to just take time to sit and ask internal questions about like why, and if I don't ever make the money, if I don't ever get the visibility, should I keep doing this? And I think the answer is yes. And I also think the answer is, for a lot of my friends, like everyone has another job right now. It's unfortunate. I don't want everyone to have another job. I think it would be so cool to just, you know, do this full time. And like, I don't know if anyone got to go to the Spike tribute. That was great. Spike was saying like, it's such an honor to get to do what you love and make a living doing that. And I think that's the goal, and I'm pursuing that. But again, I teach second grade and I have to do this stuff. You know, I gotta take off work to go to the film festival. So I think there's just a lot of internal things that are going on for the filmmakers as well. So I just wanted to at least acknowledge the filmmakers in the room and say like, ask the questions, do the mental work. And for like a young filmmaker, like I don't know everything about, you know, the history of theaters, but I do know that there's so much internal questioning and like mind flops going on about the state of the industry and job loss, and it can be devastating. But I think there's still a lot of hope, and I think we should still go to the coffee shops and write our stories.
Can I add to that? I mean, I think we're seeing that at Chicken and Egg, that filmmakers are teaching, or they're doing branded content, or they're having like a second or maybe sometimes even third job to, you know, to continue making films. But I also have hope with things like Jolt and Kinema and, you know, Vimeo on demand, and that there are other ways to get your films out. And the question is really how to monetize that. Like, can you figure out a way to, I mean, I love theaters, and I think CAFILM does a great job year round, not just the Mill Valley Film Festival, but the San Rafael. I've been up there for screenings, and there have been receptions or oatmeal and, you know, cookies after. And so I think that's a great model. And the Sequoia here in Mill Valley, you know, really those community screenings. But I think they're also, as Rose was saying, it is a transformative time where, you know, some of this distribution is broken. And so I do believe these new, you know, systems of distribution online are going to keep popping up, and people are talking about that on Zooms all the time. Like, how can we get films seen? How can we get filmmakers remunerated? How can we make this sustainable? But I think they're going to have to be, you know, we're going through a metamorphosis right now, and, you know, I still have hope for film and cinema.
Me too, and actually you gave me a lot of hope. And what we were talking about yesterday is being inspired by others who are doing it. And it made me think, you know, another reason why you might go to the movies or watch a movie is because you know about the person who made the movie. You know, for example, A24 is kind of known for letting us know about the directors, like Celine Song, and knowing a little bit about the true story that inspired Past Lives, or Ava Victor, and knowing a little bit about the creator behind, you know, Sorry Baby. And I think we do want to, ultimately, we want to know people's stories, including the auteurs that we love. And I was thinking about, even at a film festival, you know, I made some new filmmaker friends, and we talked about our lives, and they heard about my real life experience with loss and grief and my, you know, trying to live life anyway and winning $1 million. And that's probably like us talking and them getting to know me is probably why they're going to come see my movie after this panel. And in, you know, that's on a microcosm scale, but on a larger scale, like how can we introduce to the world the inspiring filmmakers and their stories and who they are, so that it's like when you want to go see the movie of someone you know or a new friend, it's like that. We want to see the auteurs and their distinct vision of life and their authenticity. Like people are hungry for originality. We don't just want the same franchises over and over. We want other artists' voices that show us life through their distinct point of view and resonate with us.
I just want to add a thought that Mark began with, and that is budget. I think that in this dramatic time of change, and there's always been change, considering your budget by knowing the marketplace is really fundamentally a lead to success. That if you really understand where your film is going to go, the A, and then the B, and then the C, you want to be sure your budget is sufficiently covered by the C and hope for the best. And that will allow you, I think, a certain freedom to really make a film. It's going to be a little bit more confined. It's going to be a little bit more stressful, perhaps. But there's no relationship between the amount of money you spend and the success of the product. There's never been a relationship that correlates the two. You make big movies and you lose a lot of money. You make a little bitty movie and you lose a little bit of money, but that's all you have. So the point I'm saying is, if you start to look at the industry and start to see what's working and how it's working and where you might be positioned when you make your film, really consider the tightening of the budget during these times. Once you have success, budgets will flow much more freely.
Okay, well, maybe there's a visual indication that there's a question, so maybe I should take questions. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm just piggybacking off what was said in terms of budget, in terms of access, really. I think that's one thing. The verticals are like akin to what romance novels on the Kindle were for the subway goers, you know, and I think what television was in the 50s. I mean, they're terrible. I hate them, you know, but they are like appealing to people. And, you know, one of the reasons why people don't go out is isolation, but it's money. You know, going to the movie theaters is incredibly expensive for a young person, you know. So I think that something has to change with that. And, you know, I see it with stage theaters too are closing left and right. They don't have audiences anymore. Young people don't want to go to the theater, you know. So here we have this thing, and we have AI, and it's like, how are we going to bridge this, you know, into art, into going to the cinema again? I mean, I don't have the answer, but it's just, I think money is a big issue.
Yeah, well, I guess there's other questions. I mean, one of the things that we always are faced, that the kinds of films we've made, probably the ones that, you know, whatever seem like our signature films, those kind of films in general are well covered on streaming these days. So it's like, you know, there's a lot of high quality films on streaming platforms, on Movie, on you know, you can go to BritBox, you can go, you know, Criterion. It's like there are a lot of great things to see, unfortunately, online, and many of the films that we think of making, really the collective response from the community is, yeah, wow, that's great. But, you know, unless we sell it to a streamer, it's a kind of thing, as a friend said, that dramas, the drama business has basically been eaten by the streaming business. There's just high quality dramas all over the place. So it really has to be an exceptional thing that people say, we're going to spend $20 because we heard it's a character drama or even comedy is so exceptional. Anyhow, I'm just trying to balance this out. But whoever gobs the questions, yeah, go ahead.
That's a question for each of you. When you are thinking about like the first time filmmaker, like what's the biggest mistake you do like in the first step, and how they can avoid that?
The question, if you could hear it, was what mistake do first-time filmmakers usually make, and how do you avoid it?
Yeah, in your opinion, like as a lady.
Give yourself more than 8 weeks to write your script. Yeah, so I mean, like I said, with NOSEEUMS, we wrote the script. We had 8 weeks. We were rewriting all the way up until, you know, the first shoot day. I think that I can see as filmmakers, like you're the biggest critic. Your audience is enjoying everything, and you're like, but in that last act, I should have just taken a little more time. So I think, and I hear it all the time in interviews, but it really is making sure that your script is a feature. Yeah, making sure. For me, I think is making sure that that feature is almost bulletproof. I believe if it says something important, it'll have a better chance of getting supported. So, yeah, making sure it's saying something important, whatever is important to you during this time. There's so much happening. There's so much we could be saying. And I don't believe in following all the rules, but some of those rules and all those little script books are important. So I think some of the rules are really, really, really important. So just not rushing through that. I was reading in a book somewhere, like, we've lost like the virtue of patience in our generation. Like, you know, social media is awesome, but it also is, it's just instant. It's instant gratification. It's done so much, but it's also taken so much. I was thinking about what someone was saying about money over here, and I was just thinking, like, money is also how we're in this situation. Like the lack of originality. It's because of money. The reason why the verticals are such a huge deal is because it's quick money. But I would just say, like, really making sure that your script matters, that you've shown it to a couple of people who will be honest with you. That's for me with NOSEEUMS, like, give me 8 more weeks to 16 weeks would have been awesome, but we made do, and I'm proud of what we made. But yeah, the script part.
So we only have 3 minutes left, so maybe we can take 3 quick questions.
Last weekend there was a panel at this festival on AI in film, and the big message there was, with the increasing advances in AI, there are no more barriers to production, which, if true, is going to explode the number of entries to Sundance, etc. It looks to me from the examples that there's a limited aesthetic to AI. I'm just curious from all of you what you're seeing about AI, the impact, particularly on independent film, where that's going to go.
We kind of made a deal not to talk about AI, but do you want to say something, Rob?
AI is here to stay. I see it as a tool if it's used properly, meaning AI is already in sort of like the same conversation happened in the VFX community when CGI was introduced, and AI still can't tell a really good narrative. AI isn't good at the details. I think we're not going to roll it back. AI is here, so it's a tool that we have to figure out how to master. I want to say one really quick thing. I know we have limited time about the first time filmmaker. Also, I have 2 things. One is, don't make a film because of the marketplace, meaning this Sinners is really great, so now I'm going to make a film that has all the elements because this is so successful. Or before that, Everything Everywhere All at Once was a success, so now I'm going to make a film that's like that. Make your film. Don't follow the marketplace. Don't make it because you think this is going to sell well, or this you've read that these 3 elements are necessary. make your film. That's number one. So have a point of view. Have a point of view and have it be your point of view. So and then the second thing is, in terms of getting it out into the marketplace, one of the challenges is that it's very expensive for a distributor to put a film into the marketplace. Most people just get it into the can, and they don't factor that the journey to get it into the marketplace is as long, if not longer, and actually more expensive. So one of the reasons why it doesn't go out into the marketplace is if your film costs $1 million, it's multiples of millions to get it to the marketplace. So as a filmmaker, you need to access all the tools that are now in the marketplace for you, which is social media, your own voice. You have now avenues and access to audiences. Once upon a time, it took a critic to say a film was great in the New York Times or wherever, and everybody rushed to it. And then there was a moment in which critical reviews, they weren't the arbiters. Peer reviews were more important. And that's something that filmmakers should take to heart. Your own community and your own outreach is just as critical right now.
Well, thank you, panelists. This has been
Sorry, I took up all the time.
amazingly I mean, it's been such an upbeat panel, I even feel better about the industry myself. So thank you very much. And thanks for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.